please. Can I have a roll call to establish quorum?
Mr. Lanceo?
Here.
Mrs. Vickers? Here. Mrs. Terry? Here. Mrs. Norman? Here. Mrs. Brown? Here. You guys circle.
Would everybody stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Make a motion for the adoption of the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is the time now for public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Mr. Hills?
Thank you. My name is Howard Hills. I haven't had a chance, but I'd like to welcome the new superintendent. Welcome to, well, you're already from Laguna, so thank you for your service. And I wanted to appear tonight, by the way, it just shows how much I love you people, that I was 40 minutes ago swimming in 76-degree water off the Rockledge Ledge, and I came in reluctantly to be here tonight. And but I just saw when I was standing over here that you had all the old yearbooks here, and I wanted to address tonight. So I just kind of spontaneously wanted to address the fact that you know, I saw in the newspaper the excellent article that was written about the results of the Healthy Kids Survey, and for all of us in Laguna Beach, that is those are sobering findings. I guess sobering is not the right word, but at any rate, I think we can study that, and I'm studying it, and I think the time will come to talk about that. But right now, I wanted to point out that there are also some other things in the news, like, for example, the story about Samantha Burke, the young student who just got named to the board for the food pantry. And I started thinking about it, and by the way, I went and looked at the brush and palette, and I don't know if Mr. Hirschfield is here tonight, I guess he's not, but I asked him to give me a little bit more information, because I read an article in the brush and palette about the new House of Representatives that's been formed for the students. And when I looked at the Healthy Kids Survey, what I say to myself is, and then I looked at this article, there was also an article in there, and Mr. Hirschfield in the article was talking about when he looks at the Healthy Kids Survey, what he takes note of is that kids don't have a sense of connectedness to the student community and the larger community. And it all started swirling around in my head, and I started thinking about, and so I had an exchange of emails with Mr. Hirschfield about student government. And you know, 8 years ago, I proposed to the board that we have a new restoration of constitutionally based student government in the school. And when I was at that school, we did a constitutional revision process. And I was happy to find out that Mr. Hirschfield thinks that there may be an opportunity soon to do an actual constitutional student government program. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try to summarize. Here in the yearbook from 1970 is an article. There's a section of the yearbook called Pace Setters. And this is what one of the Pace Setters was the education club that the students started. This is what it said. I'm going to run out of time here. The club has participated in many activities and initiated several new concepts, ideas, and programs. The club has helped to bring both upper and lower classmen together, education process, and the guidance of their student, their faculty advisor. They set up a mini course program to acquaint students with new and old subjects of student interest. They also sponsored, the point is, this organization, what it did is it traveled all over Orange County, and it investigated, the students got together and investigated what was going on in curriculum developments. And they started a program of student-initiated curriculum, and the student courses were run at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the students came in and participated. It was standing room only for classes that were taught by students and people that the students had brought in. Now, I know I'm out of time, so just let me try to wrap it up and say this. Mr. Hirschfield, in his memo, in his email to me, and in the article in the Russian Palace, talked about the fact that the House of Representatives that they just created to try to bring more cohesiveness to the student community is before school, and it helps them get into college. And the point is, I don't think student government should be before school. I think it should be constitution-based, and I'd be glad to volunteer to help with the constitutional process It should be constitutional based, they should get credit for it during school time. And one of the things I'm gonna be promoting and advocating is a restoration of a 5th grade through 12th grade student government program in our school system. I think it would be one of the things that could address some of the problems that were identified in the Healthy Kids survey.
Thank you, Mr. Hills. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on items not on the agenda tonight? Sure. We're going to move on to number 7, our LaRufa representative, Sarah.
Yes. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Gloria, for you came to all of the school sites last spring and you spoke at the staff meetings. And the teachers really felt like, I got a lot of positive feedback from that. And they really felt like your content was meaningful, particularly the point of that you wanted to come into the classrooms, see what the teachers are doing, see what the students are doing. And we really welcome that. And I know that you guys came to the high school, Darlene, you and Dr. Gloria, and saw a couple of our students. And I know that teacher was really happy you did, and that's the way most of the teachers feel, so that was received well. So we look forward to that. The teachers are proud of what they do, they're proud of their students and learning. So we appreciate your interest in that. And also we appreciate that your presentation style was really very likable, warm, open, and authentic, and that you have an open door policy, so we really thought that was meaningful and appreciated that. And we look forward to working with you in the upcoming school year, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Margaret, I already see you coming up, our CSEA rep.
Margaret Woodard. Yes, CSEA also would like to formally welcome you. We've already had a meeting and had discussions, and as indicated, yes, by Monday, we already have had a collaborative meeting for our professional development launchpad, and Dr. Valero showed up at the meeting and was contributing, and that's exciting to see. On that subject, we are looking at that as you looked at Launchpad last time, and I know there's this, wow, where are we going with all of these professional developments? And I always jump on this with Lisa because she knows I'm very excited about things like this because this is what we do. We collaborate together. The surveys went out to our members. We have 2 other, Dorinda Klein and Nikki Romano, on this committee. But the discussion that was brought up a couple of the meeting before the last was the idea of having leads or having someone that's from the sites and specific job descriptions that can buy in, be part of the process, and be our feet on the ground, so to speak, so they know what perhaps someone is interested in. And so I appreciate that that decision has been made. There are names that will be coming out for that subcommittee. That will be an informative meeting that's already set up to have our members really prepared, and that's what we are asking for, and we feel comfortable with. I mean, I think we work for that. So, and I appreciate you being there because I've already told a few people you were at that meeting and they go, really? And I said, yes, very involved. The other thing I would just like to mention is that summer school is going along from my perspective well. So we have Thursday as our last day, and it's been interesting. I've been excited for what I'm very specifically doing. I will be leaving this weekend to go to San Jose to represent Laguna Beach and our big San Jose conference. And I did leave for all of the board members and all of the directors and management a copy of Focus magazine because there's the Champion of Change. And today I received an email from the White House that they are planning on having a reunion in November or December, and for all the disciplines of Champion of Change. So I enjoy, of course, it's a prestigious honor, and I say that quite honestly, but at the same time, it is such a pleasure to represent Laguna Beach. We are so fortunate here, and we know that. So with that, I thank you, and look forward to working with you, Dr. Gloria, and of course, everyone else.
Thank you. Do we have anybody from PTA tonight?
Yes, you do.
Amy Skandar, on up.
Hey, happy summer, everyone. It's a pleasure getting to finally meet you tonight. Thank you for having this reception for everybody. And I wanted to wish Darlene well. I appreciate everything you've done, so thank you so much as well. I'm not going to take any more time. I'm actually going to turn this over to Kathleen Fay, our PTA Council Advocacy Chair. She's going to share with you what she experienced at the National Convention.
Well, actually, it was in Orlando in June, so I want to share that part of the experience with you. Warm, but no alligators, and there's one hotel fire. I was privileged to be able to represent our regional 4th District PTA, which encompasses all of Orange and parts of LA County, as a national PTA, at the National PTA Convention as their representative. And we took care of a lot of business, of course. We did resolutions and bylaws changes and some other things. So we have 4 resolutions that I wanted to share with you. Resolutions are national in scope, but they have local, council, and state PTA level power to enable PTA members, leaders, and public policy program teams to join with others and build partnerships, coalitions, increase awareness, develop programs, and lobby policymakers. So I'm so sorry that Bruce Hopping isn't here tonight because the first one is water safety and instruction. Now these resolutions are very long, and I'm just going to give you a very short paraphrase of what it is. Basically, the short version is there's lots of water in America. To prevent kids drowning, PTA favors these measures concerning water safety and swim instruction. Promote safety education and awareness of water-related risks. Encourage standards for and access to water safety and swim instruction. Support water safety and swimming skills in schools and advance these measures through partnerships. So every student swimmer is the ongoing dream for all of us now. The next one is recognition of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer/questioning individuals as a protected class. Again, the short version is all kids should be safe and free from discrimination at school, but there are no federal statutes protecting against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Lack of awareness hurts kids facing LGBTQ issues, and when LGBTQ kids are specifically protected by policy, it increases their safety. PTA should support legislation to protect these kids, encourage school policies that also offer such protections and support, and work with the Department of Education to bring these issues into the school curriculum. Third is electronic cigarettes in youth. The short version is that kids are vaping, and e-cigarettes are being marketed to kids. Nicotine is bad for kids, therefore so are the e-cigarettes because they can be used as a nicotine delivery system. Many groups support regulation of restricted use, and PTA should support measures to address the manufacturing of and ingredients in e-cigarettes, prohibit sales and marketing to kids under 18, prohibit use in public and in school, and educate people about the dangers of e-cigarettes. And then the final one is homework quality over quantity, and I was asked by California State PTA to speak to this measure at the National PTA Convention because, of course, it started here and Laguna Beach is way ahead of the curve, and it was an example of collaboration between PTA and the school district. I know that I think Jan and Kendra were both on board at the time, and it was passed, so you're years ahead of everyone else. It's made its way up to the state and then to the national level. So the short version is that good quality, age-appropriate homework can help kids learn, but too much homework can create undue stress and harm family interactions. Sometimes homework can even contribute to the achievement gap when assignments require students to access resources unavailable to them at home. PTA should advocate for quality homework that is designed to be meaningful and appropriate, considerate of family life, is equitable, and assigned in reasonable quantities to support student success. So that's where we stand on those 4 issues. And again, per usual, Laguna Beach Unified is ahead of the curve on most of them as it is, so well done. I will give the long versions to Victoria, as well as my minutes, for distribution to the rest of them.
I was scribbling as fast as I could. I like the typed notes, they're the best.
Thank you, Kathleen. Excuse me, any other organizations? Okay, we'll go on to board member comments. Kevin.
Well, it's summer, so basically all I do is go to the beach, and I have been enjoying the 76-degree water as well. But I would like to say I appreciate having the, I do believe it was in the last board update, the kind of framework for the new social studies standards, and that they will be really looking at just what Kathleen was saying, the LGBT stuff, and more civics. I remember when I was, growing up, we actually had Missouri history, which, let me tell you, 114 counties, no. So, but it doesn't mean to be that boring, but I do think that that is, I think it's important, and to Kathleen's still here, she's been spearheading getting our high school students who are 18 registered to vote. So all these things hand in hand are just gonna, I think, promote better citizenship and more involved citizens as they get older, so that's what I got. Girl.
Welcome.
Oh, yeah, well.
And Darlene, I've gotten all kinds of emails. People ask me when your last day was with the office too, so I will let them know so they can still reach out. Thank you so much for all of your service and opportunities. Thank you really appreciate it. If I knew his last name, I would make sure I go with something. And then I haven't been to the beach quite as much because I've been in the gym a lot. And other schools' gyms watching basketball games. No, not that gym, I wish. The sitting there not getting exercise gym. Watching other people exercise. But watching our freshmen and sophomores, juniors, seniors playing basketball, it's been wonderful. It's wonderful to watch just the development. I mean, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they started in 5 weeks. It's amazing what the coaches do with them. And how the kids, build a team, and the kids that decide that basketball's not their thing, but that's been wonderful. My favorite thing is hearing topics as Geraldine, like the fact that they're excited about all the development, the stadium, they're excited about LED lights, they're asking questions about AC and fans, but parents are engaged, listening, they're looking at facilities, and I think for them, it's kind of like what we're talking about in the technology lesson, it's a simple thing for them to see if it's representative, because they're not in the classroom every day, but when they're sitting in there, they see all that. I did, luckily Dee and Jason and I got to go to a wonderful conference on leadership and how leading and taking action for student success. And, it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I immediately started asking Jason about individual PE. Is that what's called, individual PE? You know it. And he gave me this great, purposeful, he speaks so purposeful. But giving us great information that went from very large districts to small districts and the CIF and how it's all intertwined and how you want to support all the students and you have to support the programs. And it was so informative so that I was able to just respond back to the person who asked me a question, right? But I got enough information so I could go back and also send them to where they could get more information and more support. And I felt bad, but I thought if I don't ask them right at 5 in the morning, I wouldn't know. And then, and I probably could talk about maybe more about what we learned when we talk about travel and stuff, but I thought in the conference, it was a 1.5-day conference, and it was their first leadership, CSBA's first leadership conference. And it was really about the difference between leading and managing, and lots of things that kept coming back to it. And I found myself even turning and saying something to either Jason or the superintendent that I confused the roles again. Like I totally stepped over so simply, and the activities were to cause us to do that, right? But so simply, but be mindful of something. Because it's, when someone has a question, you want to help them. We get into this because we like to serve people. But there are things that other people need to do. And so the mindfulness of it, the breaking down of what is a staff role versus what's a board role, and putting it into action in the meeting, I was like, I want us to do that together. It was so helpful. And lots of great quotes, which I know a lot of them were shared in here. And I do have written notes that I will send to be shared. I don't speak for 30 minutes about it. But there were 3 things that really stood out to me. One of them was, if we reflected as a school board and looked at how much time we spend on different topics here, where the public sees it's not all the work we do behind, but here, then that kind of gives people a sense of how much time we're dedicating to something, like what's an important subject. And I never thought of it that way, like that would be the reflective of that. So it's kind of being conscious of that, right? That's sometimes when you hear from the public, we're not focused, and I've heard Dee say it to me before, like, I think from the teacher view, right? Because she has a teacher view of how much time we spend on topics. And so even though the time might be spent by staff and we've already reviewed it or got it individually, if we're not discussing it out here, then people might not know how important it is. And it might seem like we spent time on something not as important. And it's a really interesting insight. The other thing is, in aligning with LCAP or any new initiative, was 3 questions we can all ask as board members. How do we know if it's effective? How do we know when it's not effective? Right? And then what's the process to improve on it or to end it? And most boards, the end part isn't the most part of their conversation, right in the beginning. So like you have it at the beginning, it makes it so much easier for everyone to have the conversation when it needs to be ended, or even staff to bring back and say it didn't work. And I think we've been fortunate because we've run so many pilot programs with school powers that we do that culturally, but other school board members hadn't had that experience at all. So it was really interesting. And then really to go to the school sites and whatever initiatives we have in place to, whether it's professional development that went on, to go look for it. Like allow like Darlene to go, oh, go take us to the school sites and show us where the professional development's happening, or something like that. It was really interesting. It was a nice way to tie back, and really with the bigger, with so many schools in bigger districts and stuff, it's a more complicated task. That was good. And then, and finally, having that time to talk to other board members about what they do and don't do, and be reflective in that space was very beneficial. And it really, it talked about how to be purposeful, and I kept thinking of how purposeful Jan is when she speaks in these updates. And I was like, I'm not doing it well yet. But I thought I will get there and be able to be as purposeful as she is. And that's what I really enjoyed, because as they were discussing the points that, and listening to Jason, so purposeful in choosing his words. So, and then, thank you for attending. It was awesome. And Dean, thank you for all the facilities work. You know, I mentioned the parents were talking about, but thanks for managing all that and student. And thank you for all the hiring, diligence in it, and all the work they're doing behind the scenes. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathleen, as long as you made this presentation, it reminds me again that we're really appreciative of all the parliamentarian type work you do and all the advocacy work, because it really keeps us informed. And as you were going through these and mentioning it particularly within and the homework, but that and being ahead of a lot of other districts makes me think of that. If any of you've been around long enough to be familiar with the Hunger Project, and it was always like the time has come. And I look at some of these, and it's a reminder that in any bureaucratic institution, it often takes a long time to get to some place where a group of people that were advocating it for it knew we really needed to be, but it takes a long time to get there. And so I think these, to me, these are very important resolutions and very important areas for the PTA across the nation to focus on. So thank you for that. Thank you for representing me. Let's see, also Darlene, I wanted to comment that an awful lot has gone on in the last 3 years. And I know that sometimes things reach a point where they kind of stagnate in education. I mean, they don't go forward as fast as we want, but there has been so much change with curriculum and LCAP and tying in with professional development, and that's been your department. So it's been a lot of work and a lot of bringing in the different advisory groups and meeting all of those requirements. And I just wanted to comment on that, but know that you've been exceptionally busy. Maybe more so than in that position in other times, but I recognize that, and thank you for that, for your leadership. And then I wanted to, Ken and I went to our ROP meeting, which we really had to push. They had all these designs, 20, 25 designs, there's 30 something. There was at least a majority of us that was like, okay, we don't like that, we don't like that, we don't like that, so that we could have 5 people come to one decision, which is not ladies. But we did it, and it reduces nicely, so it's a nice, and it really shows where ROP is headed with the CTE programs, and really relevant to career choices and career advancement, as opposed to just the vocational, but they're still retaining that. And actually, Keta shared what you had in the update that was emphasizing that we can't lose that, because for the students, we're interested in all the students, and the students who need that, it's, we can't just lose sight of that. And then I had a lot of that in years past, but and I had mentioned, I had looked, seeing what Howard said in an old yearbook, because someone moved into my neighborhood that had graduated a while back, and the pictures from ROP were actually very relevant. I mean, it wasn't, so maybe that concept was a misconception anyway over the years, but it was, I think that was the 1983 yearbook. So it's, and the ROP was interested in seeing those so they can emphasize the relevance. And now I just want to take a few minutes, with your indulgence. I got the news last night that Carl Schwartz passed away. And since he was a board member, and I just wanted to give a little tribute to him. It's interesting, some of the things that have come up tonight. Carl and I ran together when we first ran for the board, and because we had been part of a large parent group attempting to keep Aliso School open. And there were at that 10 candidates that year, but we had worked so hard in that group and then the school was closed. And out of that came the decision to run for the board. And he was, I just was looking at those things you shared with us, 7 things for effective board members. And he was really an exceptional board member. He served from 81 to 86 and then from 90 to 94. He was he was a political scientist, and he was so interested in government and constitution issues. He taught those classes. He was also extremely bilingual and biliterate, because we would talk about that at time, and a strong advocate for our English learners. A lot of what we ended up doing with English learners, starting with Ricardo and with our liaison program, was coming out of things that Carl felt strongly about, being very involved with the cross-cultural committee in the town, in the community. He was also very, very interested in our student reps, and I know some of you have heard me make a plea to have our student reps stay longer, maybe have a straw vote, participate in the meetings, because we had that then. And we had student reps that really put our feet to the fire. We, at least 3 times I've experienced where the district just had recessionary times and really budget constraints. And the students were right there, advocating for what they wanted, keep the things in the classroom. And it was really a strong voice. And Carl was definitely one that felt that we should listen to the students. And another area that he thought that was an evaluation, and you don't get very far with that. He was very keen on student evaluation of faculty evaluation of each other, faculty evaluation of their principals, and he continually advocated for those, although oftentimes didn't go very far because people are very sensitive and nervous about going into those arenas. He was definitely a board member that was well prepared, very intelligent, but he always was looking for consensus, and he didn't want anyone to be hurt. He was really like the lamb that lies down with the lion. I mean, he really wanted to be the peacemaker and bring things together, and I think that he should be noted for that. Very, very strong on Robert's Rules of Order, very strong on meeting procedure. He knew all that stuff backwards and forward. Because he was a college professor, and he taught sometimes in Mexico City, he taught for UC Santa Barbara. He had a lot of various, besides the Fullerton College, various in Spanish. I mean, he taught classes in Spanish because he was, as I said, very biliterate besides bilingual. Then I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to make a tribute to him because he gave a lot to this district. He also had 6 children that went through schools in this district. And he swam in the, miles in the ocean, and had been a swimmer at Berkeley. But for me personally, a little anecdote was when I was first on the board with Carl, we also had Ron Chilcott, who was also a college professor at UC Riverside. And they would get into these long discussions. We also did policy at the meeting at that time. So we went through our policy books at the meetings. They would talk, and it's like we tell kids, don't be afraid to ask the question, but I would make phonetic notes, go home and look it up, because I didn't know the word they were using. So I later told Carl he greatly improved my vocabulary. But I wasn't going to say it during the meeting. It's just like, okay, what does that mean? And he was a neighbor of mine in addition to being on the board with me, and I really just wanted to give a tribute to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee?
Thank you, Jan, for giving me a tribute to Carl.
Right.
Yeah, nowhere near like you did, but it was a pleasure every time I was with him. And thank you to Darlene for all you've done. I especially appreciate all your advocacy for STEM and the arts, as well as many other things. And Lisa for answering all my questions. I was very lucky to be able to go with Carol and Jason up to Sacramento, and Carol, you did a great job kind of explaining some of the nuts and bolts of what we learned. Another thing I was thinking of when Kathleen was speaking was they talked about board members really being advocates for education, public education, not just in Laguna, but at the state level, because, wait, doesn't seem like it. but we actually have a little bit of clout because we're elected, that we have constituents, and so at the state, they may kind of listen to us, and that it's important that we do that for students. The professional development part, they talked about, I mean, everybody's doing a lot. Darlene has really pushed us forward with lots of professional development. And one of the statistics they gave us was that if you have really good professional development that's aligned to what you want students to learn, it has a 40% higher impact than even really reducing class size. So it's really important. And another thing about that is it's okay to try things, and if they don't work out, we learn from that. We can't be so afraid to make mistakes. As far as the LCAP, everybody's talking about that, and how long, how complicated, but that it's really important not to look at what the district's done before, but to put our money where we think it should go. It doesn't, we can change those things, and that student input is really, really crucial, as you've been talking about, as Howard was talking about. And we talked a bit about how difficult it is to get students engaged in the LCAP, but we want their priorities. And a couple suggestions that came out were to have a student advisory in a Google Hangout. And another one that they said, a woman said worked really well, is instead of doing a student survey, they did a Twitter party. And in not very much time, they got all kinds of good input from students. So just some suggestions. And there's more that we learned, but I won't go on. I also had the pleasure of interacting with some of the women that came back, Penny Dressler, and Kelly Osborne, and Anicia from the Edible School Gardens up in Berkeley. And they actually got to meet Alice Waters, which was very, very cool. You know, the founder of the whole new American way of eating and getting it into schools. Each day was separated out into fundraising for gardens, how to integrate gardens in science, how to integrate gardens in health and nutrition. There was a nutrition part. In talking to Penny afterwards, they all came back on fire. They were just so excited being with the other people, but also with each other, and even at night, they're blah, 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 blah. So Penny, in her health class now, she wants to include at least a lesson or two on using an outdoor kitchen and cooking in an outdoor kitchen. And she has some other ideas that I'll have her talk to Jenny about below. And then the elementary women that are working on this are so excited to work with the new science specialists because they have lots of ideas, they want to listen to them. And then on top of that, I was contacted by the California Garden Committee or State Gardening Committee, and they have decided education is really important as far as getting students involved in health as well as gardening, and come up with all these kits that I have in the trunk of my car that are free, one per child. We can get a bunch of them, but I want to share them with the garden ladies and maybe the new, they're really more elementary, the new science teachers, and see where they think they could best be used and dispersed. And let's see, oh, and then just as far as an update, the jib jab around town, I did hear a little bit about the Healthy Kids survey, but I think that's good. I think we all need to be aware. And then I heard from a couple parents and one student just that disappointment about not having a computer at the high school, only the computer art or the one that's through the new ROP. And the particular student I talked to was in 8th grade coding this year, and there's no place to go with that. And anyway, it's just something to look at, to consider. That's it.
Thank you. No, go ahead.
When I was at the ROP orientation, there's a woman from UCI that teaches programming. It is right after school. It's right after school.
It's an ROK
Yeah.
It's an ROK class.
It's very nice, right?
She is.
Very nice.
Is that who- okay.
Is it at a pretty high level? Because they got the idea that.
I know Carrie's teaching it, it's a high level.
Okay.
She has been the person who's pushed me very hard over the years to get coding in school and to get more STEM classes. And I think finally she wanted to become involved. She figured, well, if I can't do it any other way, I'm gonna do it myself, you know?
Oh, that's
So
terrific.
she's a wonderful role model for women, I believe.
Oh, absolutely.
Young women, but young women especially. And I would have loved it if my daughter had had the opportunity to work with Carrie Nice. You know, I still hope maybe next year with all ridiculous classes, but it would be wonderful if that could be developed more, expanded, whatever. That's the kind of person you want to have in there. She told me she was very concerned because her husband works for Google, she's at UCI, she says, they just don't get women in coding.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
And she loves math, and she's a math person, you know, almost at the very far end, you know,
Yeah.
high end.
Yeah.
And I mean, she makes some good points, and anyway, that's the type of thing I would love to see.
That's
expanded.
wonderful, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Pass that.
And I can't make one.
Absolutely.
Jen, we were, one of the things we were tweeting or it was like the things that get in our way, like as board members. I was like, don't wanna look stupid. Don't wanna sound stupid. Don't wanna sound stupid. You said that, I was like, aw, you had that moment back then too. I was like, go away.
We understand why kids would feel that way.
Exactly, that's it really, and being in those conferences, I think that's more what it does, because it feels like you're back in school. I know, I would look like at other schools, what do you think do? Right, because it puts you back in that setting, you're all learning and working together, and it makes us feel, you're the student, Sorry, thanks for.
No problem. Well, first, I would just like to say goodbye to Darlene. She's done a fabulous job. I think in the years I've looked at a lot of the stuff you worked on. And there's some very high quality stuff. I'm not the only one that noticed that, I'm sure. But, you know, I think you've made a major contribution to this district in the time, so I really thank you for that. Number one. Number two, let me just make a brief comment on student government. I agree with Howard on this issue and what Dee was saying. You know, within the last couple of years, we have discussed having a student representative on the board. And, you know, you could do that in different ways. You could have a permanent person assigned, or you could have a rotating person and give different students the opportunity to spend one night in government. And I'll tell you why I think it might be really important. Aside from any benefit to them, some of the most insightful comments we've had have come from our student representatives. Now, a lot of times, candidly, they come here with a script, and they're probably told, stay on script. But every now and then, we'd say something, and one of them would say something like, well, they tried that was a disaster. You know, all of a sudden, it was like, there was a ripple in the room, because they just spoke what they felt or what they saw. And I don't think we involve students enough in the board. I don't know exactly how you fix it, you know, but that's something I would like for you guys to
We
toy
tried,
with.
we did talk to Yvette about, in ASP, about having someone who would want to stay. And actually, and this has been an ongoing discussion, and it's with the impacted schedules and whatnot, it's just been very difficult.
Well, that's why I wanted to suggest, maybe work with one of the teachers at the high school, MUN or something, you can pick whoever you wish, and ask if they only had to give one night up.
I think
First
we
of all, you
could
could
find that
rotate.
But then
Well, you
I'm
probably
out of that. I
could,
think
but
we
that
could
would
find
really be the one student. It might be better to have perspectives from different people, and top students, middle students, bottom students, different students, you know, obviously they have totally on good behavior and all that, but at the same time, those spontaneous thoughts sometimes are very, very
I just
insightful.
want somebody who's impassioned.
I'd like
Yeah.
to see our students get back, 'cause, I mean, I asked, and it didn't go anywhere a few years ago, to have them be involved in the city government. Have our high
Yeah,
school students
I
have a
remember
chance to, and it was one of our joint meetings with the city council, but I guess they weren't keen on the idea.
Well, if the board was so interested in something like this and gave direction to staff to look into this more seriously and find us a volunteer, we could probably talk to civics teachers, or the history teachers, or the econs teachers.
Yeah.
Because don't,
Capo does it, I don't know if Capo does it.
I think it'd be
They
helpful.
were talking about it at the last.
And we talk about it, and it just gets, you know, it goes away. So, but if we're more serious about it, we could probably make it happen.
Well, and I think
They're
from the
elected.
conference, it would be getting us a consensus and getting direction if we have a consensus.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
I think they're definitely, yeah,
can we more seriously talk?
yeah, of course, yes.
Okay.
And we heard kids make, we heard other people share comments kids made on the board, right, that were also just pivotal
Oh, yeah.
issues for them.
And all of a sudden people say, well, this is a policy we ought to adopt. And I go, that sucks. Yeah, maybe it's just their point of view, but actually, getting a student's point of view prior to making a decision might actually be a good thing.
They're in the trenches, they're there.
They're there, they're the ones that's living this stuff. So. Last thing is just to say congratulations, welcome, all those things we're going to say to you. And you know, Jason and I have talked about this, and I said, I think you got a big challenge here. Sure, things are going well, but that's sort of the challenge. You know, he said, well, how about teachers have friends? I was like, a lot of good people here. I don't see problems, really. I mean, everything can always be improved. So I think the challenge that you're going to face is to take something that works very well, with a board that seems to get along pretty well, adequate financing, good teachers, good staff, and then make it even better. And that's tough, because I can't remember which of the principals I was talking one time, and they had scored something like top 97%. And I think it was Mr. Lamont. He said, yeah, but next year, how am I going to go up from that? Well, yeah. But there's always, as you know, there's always room for improvement. So I think it's a really tough job. Some people might look at this, oh, piece of cake, you're going into this district, it shouldn't be a problem. I think it's the harder one when you have to take something. Good news, you got tremendous parent support, PTA, school power, all the parents in general. People he'll love what education is going to be. So you got tremendous parent support. And I will be very interested to see how you do, quite frankly. We're very excited to bring you here. You're a very young man, which is exciting, I think, because you're very committed to this place. You've got children in the school, and you're well positioned to do something fabulous here. And I hope, and I'm sure you will, take this on as your personal mission to see just how much you can prove, you know, how much you can do. I'm sure you're going to do that. So thank you for coming, and we appreciate the slow and thoughtful process so far we've seen you getting in the door. Okay.
I never to say welcome to the district, but it seems like you've been here since July 1st. I mean, it's not.
Also, I figure the problem is, I feel bad, I didn't say that.
It's the first meeting. This is his first meeting.
But we've also got great students. I mean, we've got.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's not like he got bad demographics, you know. But again, I think that's tough.
Not just demographics, but just kids are great in general.
Yes. I said, when you walk on that high school campus, I said this over and over again, there's just so many nice kids there. And not saying there's not a bad one here and there, maybe there is, but you just find polite, nice kids. Yeah, even some of the rough ones are pretty nice. But no, I think it's going to be a challenge, the one that I think you're up to, and I wish you the absolute best of luck. Cabinet members, and it's on for you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate the outpouring support from the staff, and as Sarah mentioned, had the opportunity to get into the classroom, or get into the meetings at the end of the year, and just the general positive that's going on in our schools is a testament to the board and to the work of our staff. And so I'm very appreciative, and as you mentioned, taking over a district that's positioned in an amazingly good spot. And so to that, I have had a lot of opportunities to meet different people and have meetings, and had a great meeting with Margaret, and continued that conversation. We've run into each other quite a bit, and it's nice to constantly see people come in and out of this district office, and they're all, for the most part, honestly so far, most people are smiling, so that's even better. So I do want to kind of talk about a couple of things in my update. I did have a chance to go to summer school and visit both programs, the elementary school program, middle school program, as well as the high school program with Darlene. And it was fun. I sat down in the classroom and was able to chat with 3 students who were sitting in an English class and just ask them how things are going. And they were the most positive students, spending their summertime sitting in a classroom, working on English, and just their feedback was very thoughtful, and asking them what's working well, what's not working well, and just appreciate their honesty. And so with that, I know that the students here would want to be involved, just finding the way to make them, empower them to do that. And there's a lot of models out there, and I look forward to getting feedback from the board what direction you'd like us to go in that. But there are ways to do that, and I think it's timely, especially with the LCAP and all the different things that we did here up at the conference. So been working on my draft entry plan. I've shared the first draft with the board, and it's still going through a few different changes as I learn more and listen more. That there's things that need to be tweaked a little bit. So I will be presenting that in a more formal fashion to the board at a future board meeting. But I did want to take a little bit of time and have an opportunity to meet with different staff and different community members to ensure that what I was thinking was on target as well. So I appreciate the feedback that all of you provided in that area and the feedback I've received from those that I've met with so far. So again, I look forward to presenting that in a more formal manner at a future board meeting. And it's been a learning experience. You know, some would say it's like drinking from a fire hose, but the approach and the professionalism of the community, school power, the different members who don't even have kids who attend school have been amazing in their insight into what makes this place special. So very appreciative of that. I have been doing some tweeting lately. I came back from a CUE conference, Computer Using Educators conference last week, where I spent a couple days up at the Skywalker Ranch and presenting about our 4 CLE classrooms, which was fantastic. Thank you very much to Mike Morrison and the work there. Presented 25 other superintendents throughout the state, and they were just amazed. And I already had 4 who said, "Can I have your card? We're coming to visit, and we really want to see what you're doing." And we're going to bring some of our board members who really are impressed with the work that's going on there. So again, I said I can take no ownership over this. I'm just getting to present something that was already in place by our board and by Mike and staff. But it's a really great thing to hear other districts looking at us and saying, "You're carrying that flag forward for in a lot of areas," and as you pointed out too, and with the work that had been done years ago around a variety of topics. So I've been tweeting a little bit about what's going on at the stadium and what's going on just in our 4 CLE classrooms, and so I'm hoping that people in the audience here as well and online can follow me and see what we're doing. And I know we have a district Twitter account as well, but my hope is to be able to spend some time in the classrooms and be able for people to see firsthand some of the great work that's going on inside and outside of our classroom. So just so impressed. And on that note, special thanks to Darlene. I think most people don't understand what the last 4 years of education has been like. It's been unprecedented change. And I know Darlene has taken on just an amazing amount of work and really worked with staff and has made some major inroads in areas to support our staff and our students and student outcomes. And I'm very appreciative of all the work that we've done. And this is my first board meeting, and then it's going to be her last board meeting, and I wish her well in her retirement. And it has been a pleasure just being able to chat with her. We walked summer school just yesterday, and it was just fun having that opportunity to catch up. And I'm going to miss that, having those conversations, but I know that you're going to be busy, probably busier in retirement than you are now, knowing that, knowing you and just having the opportunity to spend some time with you, that you'll be able to continue to impact students and lives in a very positive way in your next role. So thank you for all of you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I drowned on you.
I'm on some thoughts. Thank you. Okay. Dean.
Welcome to Dr. Florio. Farewell to Darlene, and appreciate all that you've done. You know, we got a lot of projects going on out there, and thanks to Mr. Dixon, he's got really great control over everything that's going on. And follow the superintendent on Twitter. Keep an update on it.
Lisa.
Okay, so as Margaret mentioned, she shared a lot of information I was going to share on the classified PD committee, so thank you, Margaret. But I wanted to point out that we have structured that PD committee very similar to the reclassification committee, and I have to say, this group seems to be working just as well as the reclass committee. The team is very cohesive, people feel on it, comfortable being honest about, their thoughts and opinions, and if an idea you don't think it's gonna work, then people feel comfortable to say that. So it's been very successful so far, and I see, as we expand that team and get the buy-in in the program, I see that helping it to be successful. So it was a very positive meeting. We are wrapping up most of our hiring. Most of our, I think all of our teachers are hired. We have a few classified positions that we're finishing up, so we're in good shape. Ready to start the year. And then finally, sorry, I have to do this, so. No, you're not gonna cry. In the short 3 years that Darlene has been here, you have imparted tremendous knowledge and leadership and integrity in this district, and that will be your legacy. And thank you for being such a great teammate, and I wish you the best in the community. So we have our, my car accident buddy.
Yeah. Partners in crime, car accident crime.
So on behalf of the district, this is your
Beautiful.
retirement
Thank you so
recognition.
much. That's beautiful.
Very sweet.
No, I can't talk at all.
Sorry.
All right, the only people I cried for were the IT team, so I'm not going to do this again. We were like, what am I crying? Anyway, this has been very helpful. Thank you. She's so thoughtful. She cleans my dress. I wanted to just piggyback on what Jason said in terms of the summer school program. It's going really, really well. And the curriculum at the K-8 schools is very STEM focused. The teachers are learning a lot about the program. And you know, summer school accomplishes 3 goals for us basically. The first is definitely student progress and helping those kids who are struggling during the year. But secondly, it also provides like an ongoing professional development for teachers as they're learning about new programs and trying to do things in a different way for some of our struggling kids. And then finally, it's an opportunity for us to field test and pilot some new materials. And they have done that at the K-8 program, looking at an assessment program for literacy and math, as well as a program for assessment. So they've done some really great things and done a lot of great learning and implemented the STEM scopes, which teachers will be learning about and implementing in the fall. So we should have some good quality things going on in science, and you will be happy to hear that. So that's going to be really exciting. The high school has a good program going on, credit recovery as well as GovEcon, and Carrie Denton implemented the brand new program called Breakers 101 and took 12 students, many of whom are from our ELD program at the high school, and did a fabulous job, and is doing a fabulous job with a kind of a transition class. The kids learned how to make videos already using a science experiment, and they had to calculate rates and all kinds of wonderful things and put music on their video. They went around the campus and took photos of various places as a form of a scavenger hunt, which is a whole new way to do that. Very cool. So really exciting things are going on. Our teachers are embracing innovation and doing great things, and it's so fun to watch how they apply it. And now I have my little speech. Can I do a little speech very quickly? Okay. I wanted to say a few words to all of you, and many of you in the audience as well, as I complete my last formal week in public education. Oh, that's hard to say. It has been my pleasure and my honor to serve my last 3 years, okay, stop it, here in the Laguna Beach Unified School District. It really has been, I mean that wholeheartedly. And I'm so proud of the work that's been done in collaboration with our teachers, with our principals, and our support staff, all working together in support of the kids. And that has always been our goal. I've been really fortunate to work with an incredible team in instructional services, with Mike and Irene and Dustin and Yadi and Amy, and I think I got everybody, and Johnny, and now Marissa. A wonderful, wonderful team of supportive folks. We've all worked together very, very hard and very cohesively to create a 21st century learning and teaching environment for our students and for our teachers. And I've been so proud to work with you guys. Mike's the only one standing tonight, but thanks for being here. I have to give special thanks, she's not here, but maybe she'll be watching the video, but to my sidekick, to Donna Todd, who took on this journey with me. She came over from the high school, and she was very cute, and she said, I had no idea you worked this hard at the district office. She said, I think it's you, and I said, I do, I think it's me too. So anyway, she has been an incredible partner in this journey and in supporting our team. And I want to thank the board. This board is incredible at putting students first, which is why we're all here, and I feel very proud to have been part of that initiative and that effort. I want to thank the cabinet, my partners, my 3 partners, that we have collaborated and laughed and
done some good things and learned a whole lot along the way as well. And I finally want to wish everyone in the district, the parents and the community and all who are have also been very supportive, a fabulous journey in completing this effort of continuous improvement and continuing to be a great, great district. And I have really found working with Jason this 2 weeks, 10 days maybe, he's incredibly perceptive and I think he's so well prepared and I'm very excited about the direction that he will lead the district in and I'm very, very happy for all of you and I wish you all the best. Thank you for this incredible time.
All right, moving on to number 8, our consent calendar. Are there any items that any board member would like to pull? Hearing none.
I just wanna add,
You're right.
we need to add C's not.
Oh, C's not there?
Right, comprehensive workshops, it's here in the
Okay.
backup.
Oh, I was gonna put stuff on the page.
Yeah.
We do have a C, but we just don't have
It
a.
was a copy machine.
It's on mine.
Is
My
it on
original,
yours?
no, on my original.
Oh. Okay, with that in mind, could I have a motion to approve A through K?
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Do you want to comment any other questions you had answered, or was Lisa comment on those?
I got many answers.
Well, just on the one you were going to add on that I asked about the science teachers, it's not
Yes,
to exceed
it was
20
cut
hours.
off as the, it's not to exceed 20 hours.
Right. Don't think anything else that I asked after the change. Those are just more like procedural questions.
Okay, any other discussion? Any public discussion or comment on this? All right, all in favor? Moving on to information items, number 9, fourth quarter report to County Superintendent of Schools of Williams uniform complaints. Lisa?
Yes, so this is our routine fourth quarter summary report, and we had no complaints this quarter.
Any discussion on that?
You still have to fill it out.
Public comment?
Yeah, you just have to fill it out.
We'll move on then to number 10, board member travel. Dr. Gloria.
So at the last board meeting, there was questions related to travel and policy or what policy travels fall under related to board members and reimbursement. So as requested by the board, Victoria, whoever sent out a request to several surrounding districts and received feedback related to board travel and part of that to the board weekly update. But to summarize, 11 of the 12 respondents stated that their board travels on a regular basis and that in all cases the board's reimbursed for that. So staff is just looking for consensus on what the board would like us to do, whether it come back with a board resolution. There's examples in CSBA specific to board travel, if that would be the interest, or to maybe utilize our current board policy around reimbursement for travel. So just whatever the board would like us to do consensus wise, just let us know.
Discussion?
I think this is fine, I think really what it was is more so, since we're not supposed to email back all, right? So even if it's something as benign as who's going where. So Victoria, when she gets those, can shoot an email out to all of us, because she's allowed to do that. So and so and so and so are gonna go. It's like, okay, cool, great, so we're gonna be represented somehow or somewhere. That's really all I think it was, is just to say, just so we have an idea of, who's gonna go to what, because I think there are the Orange County dinners, those kinds of things, and one of these days I'll go to one of those.
Well, they have a rep to that.
Yes, but
we always get
the opportunity, exactly, so those kinds of things, I think it's just so we know that somebody's going to some stuff, and that kind of, I really think that's really all it was just so that we have an opportunity to know that somebody either is going, or if sometime out of the blue, I would ever want to get on a plane to go somewhere in the summer.
Well, I think what I was asking, I just wanted to make sure, since it was becoming more frequent, because we had a couple of board members that had gone after they, came on, and then that we should at least make sure that our policies were compliant with whatever we needed to do to recognize that. I'm not even sure that the policy we have reflects anything more than
a reimbursement for travel. It doesn't reflect any concept of procedurally how do we wanna do it. And Victoria has, I think that's why I brought it up, not to be at all oppositional, but just that if possible, we could bring it up at a board meeting, so we could discuss it like under board comments, and this is coming up and who's interested in going. So that it, because we have been doing it, just, this is coming up by email, let me know if you wanna go and I'll sign you up. And I just would want to make it more like, who wants to go? And as some districts responded, I think 3 or something anyway, that generally everybody goes. That hasn't been a practice here. And I think that probably has to do for me with personal experience issues where I've gone through a lot of times with it. I mean, we have money in the district right now. That wasn't always the case. And so even for our teachers, now we have the luxury of having been able to send a lot of teachers to a conference, where we were in times where we had to say, okay, we'll send 1 or 2 teachers and then they can come back and report. And so I just have, for me, I'm really frugal about spending tax dollars on the classroom. And even though it may filter down to the classroom, I think that's just my own background, which causes me to ask questions like that, that just let's open it up and make it more, just make it not a denial thing, because I think you brought that up, and that we're gonna divide this. No, that wasn't the point, it was just that if it's occurring more, let's make sure that we have procedures in place. That was.
There's a great speaker that talked about when the board works together, either in governance or in the other section you give, where you talk about how we have those backgrounds, because we all bring it. Has whatever that space is, and we bring it, and that's how we balance it. So there's 5 of us, or that's where there's multiple people, and how it contributes is very powerful. And I thought of you when they were talking about someone who was there or came on when there was constraints on money versus when someone's coming there for an initiative, like to add something. It was very interesting in what you're bringing during that time. So thank you for always thinking.
And particularly because other than and even though CSBA gives you a lot of good ideas, and I know you shared those things, I mean, sometimes I find that everything they do has a high price tag. And there may be other things that somebody might want to go to that are put on by someone else. And they can come forward and ask about those.
Yeah, I think at this time when things are changing so quickly, it's really important.
Well, they are and they aren't, because I did read that on the effective board members, and I thought, I mean, that's kind of like age old. I mean, that isn't new. That really was, it said at the start, I mean, now you're a new board member. So it was like the person who's starting out so that they understand, which I thought, actually, is that something you learn almost like baptism by fire? Because when you run for an office, you do think you're just gonna go in there and you're gonna make a change, then find out, well, there's 5 people have to vote. And if 3 of them don't, vote for it, it's not gonna fly. And that's really pretty much an eye-opening experience when you see that emphasizes that it's a team. It's a 5-member good decision making. So I think but I do find that maybe those stand over time as far as what actually makes the board work effectively.
Right, I agree. I think there's a difference between Chris Hertzfeld had, after some meeting, we were talking about not pathways, but something, and he pulled up this thing from 1980 something on his principal, and it was all the same things, they just were called different things, and he keeps that in his folder along with his little constitution, right? So he remembers that we sometimes just rename it, but then he looks for the emphasis of what the difference was. And the reason I talked to a board member who'd been on board for 18 years, whatever was it, they were about to hit 20, they were closer to 20 than they were 50. And they were there because they said that it was helpful for their board to call out what was just being renamed and what really was a significant new component. And it was really helpful, and so I was like, oh, it made me think of you too, like that experience is different because when it seems all new to you and you don't know, like it is a way to understand all the governance and the difference that you're not crossing that line with staff either of the differences. But I love the insightfulness of they can see that difference between what's just being renamed and what really is.
And I think I didn't communicate well. I didn't mean as far as board role. I meant as far as education today. Like we're talking about, we've done the same thing for 100 years. We've run our schools like a factory with, all this age are all together, and we ring the bell and we march out kind of like a, like an assembly line. And it needs to look differently. And Mr. Morrison has been fabulous and everyone else about bringing other parts in. But there's more than that people are looking at, and that's what
I'm not disputing who finds value what, just wanted to put it more out, like in this group.
And I appreciate that. I don't know if Victoria bringing all of that at the meeting though, and looking at calendars and trying to figure out.
Well, I don't think it's
Like,
not,
if you
it's
can
more,
be
to
there
me
or
it's
not
more
go.
conceptual, because you have to plan a long way in advance, actually. I mean, you send us those things pretty far in advance, that's all.
And I do like the idea of letting us know, because I think even with Shree, the superintendent of the year, we didn't know who all was going, so until we got there, we're like, oh, you're you, because we didn't know, so it is nice to know, because we go, get careful.
I agree too, and sometimes if somebody's going, you
No,
don't feel
yeah.
like you have to go.
But if
If you don't know if anything's going on, better go.
Someone should go, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that'd be helpful for us to know as you start getting the feedback, or I'm gonna let everyone know back by this day, so let me know or something. I think that's helpful.
Well, Jan, the other thing I want to ask about this is, as long as we discuss it, let's clean it all up. I thought you had expressed some concerns about A, the cost of travel, and B, particularly out-of-state travel. Is that an issue, out-of-state travel? I mean, I don't do it.
Oh, well,
I'm just wondering.
I gave that example of that a long time ago, where we're gonna decide that we're gonna go to something in Europe, and we said, no, that's not gonna happen.
But there are national conferences, so do we have a policy against that, or?
We don't have a policy against anything, but I think
There was a few years back that, I don't know if you were on or not, where
we decided not to do out-of-state stuff, and that was for field trips.
I remember
And I think
something.
it was also for us, we weren't gonna go to conferences out of state, and that must have been, was that, wait, maybe when you first came on.
Maybe when I first came on. I do
We
remember
were
that
talking
discussion,
about
maybe
that.
I'm mixing it up with what you said, but,
Cause
so, I mean, how do people feel about that? As long as we're discussing
it
it.
was simply a discussion that we had,
Yeah.
you know, and it was when everything was going south.
Yeah.
And okay, and see, that comes down to personal, I mean, I'm not keen on it when our city council folks decide they need to go to Washington. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're a city council in Boynton Beach, you know, I don't know that, but I'm sure there's council people that feel that they need to do that. That's like my personal opinion, that I'm not gonna go make a speech down there at city council that they shouldn't do it, but I'm thinking, okay, why are you doing that? And that other people would think it's great, so it's just, there's gonna be differences in opinion. I would say, there's enough in California, I'm not sure that.
I think it should be case by case. I mean, sometimes you can go to Arizona less expensively
Then
than
you
you
go
can
to
go somewhere in
Well,
California.
we had that one year, and
But-
it changes, we sent a group of people to, that town back east with a PE, there's a whole PE initiative, and is it in Indiana? It's somewhere that, I can't think of the name of the city. It's really well, and many people were there. It's really well known for their whole PE program. And we had a number of people go. We should think of it, it's,
Well,
starts with a P.
so I think that begs the
Purdue.
question for us,
Huh? Purdue? No, it was a town where they're really,
I don't know, but it seems
but
like
then, and the
we
difference
look
is,
at it. I
when
mean,
we had DeFore come here, we had the DeFores come here twice. I mean, that, there was also that, I mean, you bring folks here, well, what Mike's gonna do with that Google thing, I mean, that's.
well, there were a lot of, North Carolina had something in science or coding, they had instituted something, and they had a wait list for a year for people to go, because people were traveling to see what they did. I had like a preschool program was happening, so I don't remember what exactly it was, I just was like, how can you wait a year to go see? Right, I didn't understand what was my first like educational article I was reading, right? And so there's that, but there's nothing in our board, so going back to kind of like what we're learning about the policy and the governance, is that maybe we should look to see what CSBA has or others have for policies, just that we make sure that we either are saying if it's outside the state, we have to bring it up for discussion, or if there's something so that we can be in agreement and we have a policy and then we can treat it fairly, or we're just gonna.
I think case by case basis works. But I also look to, I'm gonna be looking to our superintendent, that's what he brings to us. I mean, we may end up making a decision, but we're not doing like the research.
Right.
So that would be not like, if we're gonna change the way we do policies, that's where my comfort level would be, not for, what did I say one time, that we're the amateurs. I mean, it's like, that's how I would feel about any board that I've worked with. I mean, we don't have that specific expertise. When the to say, I'm gonna go and listen to this, and then I'm gonna come back and say, we should do this in our district. Because I don't feel that I would have, as much as I try to be informed, the depth of the day-to-day workings of the district to go in a curriculum direction, or, does that make any sense?
Yeah, because
I mean, I just think
that's
like
fine.
defining the roles. I mean,
Right.
that's,
Right, but no, I meant as in our policy, because we're like, well, we'll just do it, our policy doesn't.
this is fairly, I mean, again, it is, this is just for
I know,
reimbursement.
I'm just wanted
Right.
to talk about it,
Yeah.
and we've done that, and it's not to be constrictive,
Well,
I mean, I just.
I would like to see what CSBA has for policy.
And regarding travel.
Yeah, like I just thought, I just thought it'd be.
I'm sure they've got some canned something.
Right, but like, I appreciate
I have it, I
it.
can provide it if that's.
Maybe the next
board.
update, yeah.
I can provide it as just
I just think
as
it's
here's an
yours.
example of what
That's-
could
yeah,
exist and.
I think really this is mostly about sensitivity to spending funds. That is really what this is, the bottom line is. That's really what this is a discussion about where do you want your funds to go? And I think that board member knowledge is incredibly important. But I also am, very sensitive to taxpayer dollars being spent for the ultimate purpose, which is education of our kids. Now, again, those go hand in hand, our ability to do, our supposed governance job. We do have to have some expertise in that. So if you guys don't, I trust y'all to bring me back what I need, give me those notes, look at them, I'm good with that. But I think that really it's mostly about just, being sensitive to having been through some very rough times, some slightly rough times. You just wanna be very careful that you don't get all hog wild on, cause you get used to it. The thing of it is, you get used to being able to do stuff. And then when you can't, it ain't pretty. So, I think that was really more my thing.
And again, when I say looking to the district leadership, because there are many, many wonderful things being done in lots of districts, and we can't do them all. I mean, we don't have the student population, we don't have facilities, I mean, we don't have the time in the day. And, in fact, I used to hear my father talk about the library at Berkeley and how there were so many books, and how could you ever read them all? Which is kind of like Kate Turner was too, who read a book a week. I thought, if I had the capability to do that. But it's overwhelming, because I read about them all the time, and yes, our district is doing really, really well, but so are other districts. And it's good to share and to learn about new programs, but just keep in mind that we just can't do everything.
Right, and I'm not advocating that I go learn about how a science or gardening, any teaching program, I don't even go near that side. No one wants me in their classroom to do that stuff, it's not what I do. I convince everyone to leave and go do something else. But, that's what I do. But but the governance piece, the not wanting to feel stupid or not knowing what the government, and to make sure you don't walk in across the line, like I had a teacher ask me to spend the day in her classroom, I'm like, okay, she's spend the day in her classroom. I'd love to, but I don't think that's, the school board, I don't think that's the role for me to be. And so it's nice to be in the conference and they go, no, you don't do that. Okay, great, you go see it and you look for specifically what's being applied, right, but you don't spend the day in the classroom. And so it's kind of an interesting, it's very, very helpful, in that support. But, I don't want to go to New York, I don't want to go to DC and advocate, but there are people who do, and it's really, it's a passionate part, and it's one that she's really good, and some people don't have a Kathleen, or some districts don't have a Kathleen. And so that's what
That's also coming out of PTA, which is that is part of PTA's function.
That's their
They
mission.
have that position, a parliamentarian position, an advocacy position. So they,
well, that could be, someone could come up to the board for Mountain Camp Community.
I'm
Are you satisfied?
So just to summarize, so that I have it down for direction, so when CSBA or professional development, that board would travel to, obviously Victoria can send out an email soliciting those who are interested, and then kind of keep running tally so that everyone knows who's wishing to attend. Is there still interest of the board that we bring it here for discussion at any point, or is that not the consensus?
I don't think we need to bring it here. I think it needs to be communicated. I agree with Jan. I'd like to know who's going. I think if I was going, I'd like to know who's going just because I might see them and maybe have dinner with them or something like that. As all of you know, I don't like to travel, and it's not one of my favorite things, so I'm not pushing by any means this. And I would like, there's one other comment, there's been some little history in this district against wanting to take money out of the district by former board members. So that's not part of the historical thing.
Take money out, I don't understand.
They didn't ask for reimbursement.
That's very recent though, I mean, for
That
many
was just
years,
that-
my experience.
But it's sort of something I bumped into when I came into
I know you
to it.
did, but
And,
that was different circumstances.
It was different circumstances, but I think there was a little bit of talk at that time on the board about that issue.
I know.
But things have changed and the people have changed and circumstances have changed.
Right.
But on the other hand, there is also a history that, we don't take a salary and we have a board policy against it, whereas a lot of
I don't
boards
think
do.
we have a policy against it, it's just.
Well, we agreed not to do it.
We agree with the policy.
We agreed not to do it. So, but the spirit of that was very good, I think,
Right.
and I like it.
Spirit's good.
Because you're saying, I'm donating my time, I'm not asking for anything back, I'm donating my time, so. I think that's good, but I think some of that was part of all that feeling that, hey, especially maybe in the bad times, they didn't want to take any money out of the district, because you were here, it's, it was really bad. And there wasn't money to take. So anyway, if it, everybody's happy and Jason's got his instructions.
I also think that in Orange County, I think we're one of only 2 districts, I think Bray is the only other one that doesn't take pay, is that right, Victoria? I think there's 12, I called. A while back, and I think
There's a lot in
there-
it, I think it's not.
I think there's
And I really didn't, I
12
think
that do, and
that's a great policy.
I'm proud of us that we don't,
Yeah.
but we are very, very unusual.
Well, and so the other thing, in the visiting other schools and stuff, one of the things that came up in the conference was the innovation, like talking about all the innovative things you do. And you encourage teachers, principals, you encourage people to be innovative in the continuous development, like where you can make mistakes by going with them on those. And they weren't talking about elaborate travel, but it was like to another school district to see something, not because you're gonna go implement it, but you get to see the passion they have, and your support allows them to kind of take that leap, especially if it's something unknown and there could be a lot of mistakes being made, you're supporting them in that. And so that was a nice piece, and I didn't have that insight, because I was like, well, I'll go if you ask me, I guess, but I don't know why I'm going. Like, it didn't very well, I was going, oh, I'm going just to provide you, but I didn't know, like, I'm like, I don't have any knowledge on that topic. Oh, you just bought me to be there, so I'm there while you're taking this brave step of maybe entering.
Is that if something's already been decided?
No, this was, they were talking about different things on their LCAP. The one that I was asked to go to was to go see like STEM science teachers in elementary schools, right? And I was like, oh, that's why I was asked. I kind of feel like I didn't work for my schedule, but I kind of feel like, why would a board member need to go? They know about education part
I
of it.
think it was part of that bigger picture of education, to be an advocate for education all over, not just our district.
I'll give an example. Down in Qualcomm has what's called the Think of It Lab. And so they invite students and staff to come down and actually go kind of hands-on in that lab and see that. And that's kind of an extension to the activity. So that would be something where you may say, extend an invitation to the board if, for example, people are going down there just to see it, see what it looks like, and it just is a different perspective. So there's no action, not necessarily more of kind of a, hey, this is innovative, it's not even another school, it's just a kind of a field trip. That might be different examples.
Jason, are you comfortable with what we
Yes,
said?
thank you.
Can I just summarize and make sure I'm right, that there is no policy against travel, there's no particular limitation, that we're gonna do it on a case-by-case basis, national travel is possible, but we're not gonna be thrilled about it necessarily, but if it's needed, it's okay, and,
It's not just travel, it's conference attendance, which involves travel.
Right, exactly, no, not just gonna go. And European travel is highly suspect. I got it?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, any public comments? Moving on to number 11 is a action item, I need a motion to approve. And this is a approval of curriculum committee recommendation for new course and textbook adoption, Algebra 2 Essentials course and Algebra 2 Foundation series textbooks.
We have just a couple items tonight left over from our last curriculum committee meeting, which was very full and very busy. As an answer to the issue, the newly required legislation that all students are to meet the Algebra 2 California State Standards by grade 11. Like all school districts, we are currently in a transition of some students who are totally going to be prepared to do that, who are part of the new pathway, and perhaps other students who are not as prepared because we weren't ready for that change in legislation. So we are looking at providing a course that we are calling Algebra 2 Essentials for some of our special education students or some of our less prepared general education students. It will be very selective. Our intent is to put as many students into Algebra 2 as we possibly can, but to also provide this support to those students who need it. So we had our special education teacher work with Amy to develop this new course, Algebra 2 Essentials. It will generally be teaching the Algebra 2 standards, so it will be standards based, but it will not go quite as in depth. And it'll go a little bit slower. And along with that is a textbook that also addresses that curriculum for those students.
Can I just ask a question? Did the California committee think about this when they decided to do this?
They allow for it sort of afterwards, but not, everything is always all students. And
So they basically just, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one.
So we're following the intent, maybe not the
Just one.
specifics.
Other discussion? Any public comment on this? All in favor? Moving on to number 12, which is also an action item. Approval of curriculum committee recommendation for textbook adoption for Laguna Beach High School foreign language courses. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Charlie?
Thank you. Our foreign language department at the high school has very old textbooks, and in some cases not enough textbooks. And they met this spring to really look at materials for their classrooms and did a very thoughtful analysis of the materials available to them and arrived at these. They are meeting the AP French language and culture, Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and Spanish 3. And they did their due diligence in researching the textbooks. Will allow them to teach more appropriately.
I have a comment on this, but just something occurred to me. I shouldn't do this to meetings, I know, but we had talked about the fact that there looked like we had a record number of 5s on the AP testing this year. Did anybody data this?
So looking,
Bill,
I don't have AP access and Amy's been out.
All right, Amy's been out. Next meeting maybe?
Yes.
Any further board comment on this? Did there be any public comment on this? All right, all in favor?
They were very excited.
I heard they were excited, that's why I'm following up on, you know me, I just love success. Next item is number 13, approval of curriculum committee recommendations for purchase of supplemental materials, STEM scopes. Need a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Darla.
Okay, this is our supplemental materials as we wait and make transition to the next generation science standards. These materials are basically digital materials with very usable small kits that are very accessible for teachers. They're not big, they don't have to be moved in and out of the classroom. They're going to make a nice interim piece for our teachers. Our teachers have been looking at the STEM information as well as NGSS over the course of the last 2 years, and many of them are excited about implementing science. This program will enable them to do that, to use digital resources and also to get hands-on materials in every classroom. So they can be supplemented and work with the science teachers, but it will also be occurring in all classrooms.
So this will be just in the science like this, so our classroom teachers will have access to this. They will be able to use these across the curriculum
every
in
day.
their lessons.
They have literacy, one of the foundations of the next generation science standards is literacy in science, literacy across the curriculum. And there are a number of lessons where the teachers will be using reading like a scientist, to be looking at science, which is really exciting, and they're very accessible for teachers as well. On one of the 2 days, I think we're still doing this, the teachers will be trained, all the K-5 teachers will be trained in how to use these materials with the expectation that they will all be using.
So will they be kept in the teachers' classrooms, not in the science, whatever?
No, they're
Okay.
small enough that they can have them right there, and
Okay, great.
you
No,
teach what you
they
get-
were lots of fun.
Yeah, right, you teach what you can get your hands on quickly, so it will become more a part of their everyday.
I was just afraid of some of those small parts and having to keep track of them all, but I'm sure they'll have a system for it.
This is an item that was contacted by a person from the press that they were particularly interested in what these were, and unfortunately I could not explain exactly what they were. Could you just summarize what the items are we're purchasing?
They're kind of, it's a little consumable kit that, and the digital, the experiment will actually be outlined for the students on the digital, as they're accessing the digital material. There's also some, I think there's some books that go along with it as well. And basically a kit for science are just the consumable pieces and some of the hard pieces. Like if you were doing ramps and, what would it be, ramps and, I can't think of the other words, or pulleys and ramps, you would have some of those materials in there, and you'd also have things like toothpicks and cotton balls and things like that that can sometimes stop a teacher from teaching a lesson if they have to go out and buy it or find it. So they will be all put together. The one thing we'll have to look at over time is how we will refresh them every year, but that's easily done as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. We had some we used to store somewhere. This is a very different thing,
We had
right?
the back, and then they got refreshed every year, yeah.
Does this replace that or is it
Yes,
addition?
we had a contract with Westminster School District and a consortium here in a kind of central county. It was costing us about $20,000 a year for kits that they would bring in during different trimesters of the year. Our usage was very low. Because what happens is a teacher's teaching something, it's appropriate to teach it tomorrow, my kit's not coming for 2 months.
Right.
And we spent a lot of money, so we have dissolved that contract with that organization, and this will take its
Will
place.
these kids be stored here as opposed to being shipped off or anything?
Yep, right in the classroom.
And then the Beckman kits were taken apart and a lot of the good
Yes.
materials that aren't consumable were given, probably put in those new science rooms somewhere for the
Yes.
new teacher to figure out and sort of.
I was at the El Moro meeting, staff meeting, and they were talking about pulling out the good stuff out of those kits to keep, that would be utilized with, in conjunction with STEM scopes and the rest of that stuff, so.
The principals and the teachers went up to
They
look
went
it
through
up, and
it.
it was huge, they were huge boxes with little bits of stuff in them, and they picked out what they wanted, and then they delivered it on June 28th, I think, so the rooms are stocked and ready to go.
And so because if I remember correctly, I think I was at that curriculum committee when Dustin was talking about the STEM scopes and the fact that the consumables in there are actually really easily replaceable, there's nothing bizarre
Right.
or odd.
Easy and inexpensive, and the teachers actually field tested the FOSS kits, which are more elaborate and a little more comprehensive in terms of figuring out, and the STEM scopes, and they chose STEM scopes. So they're using them in summer school as a final pilot right now, and then they'll get the professional development, and it should be very successful.
Further discussion? Public comment?
My name's Howard Hills. I just wanted to, as a point of information, if I could, it would assist me in making a couple of comments to find out who is on the curriculum committee.
Board members, or who else?
Board members and who else is on the committee?
Principals, we have 2 principals.
Principals and the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, and that the teachers come to speak and present.
You and Dee are the board members.
Yeah, but he was asking more than board members.
Yes.
Well, then who-
No, I actually,
Just board members?
what has been described to me is what I thought it was, I just wanted to confirm it. But I don't know if you can start my time over again, but anyway, I wanted you to say that there were 3 items on the agenda tonight which were curriculum committee items. And I didn't want to exercise my right to speak for 3 minutes on every one of them because I know you all don't need 9 minutes of Howard Hills. But I did want to say that I thought the superintendent's comment really clarified. I got a little bit jumbled up in what I was saying during the non-agenda items, but the superintendent's comment about a lot of people don't understand what the last 4 years have been like really struck me. Because I think that as you all go through the process of implementing the new state standards or Common Core, however you want to refer to them, and establishing higher levels of rigor, I think we need to stop and look, and I was really interested in the comments that were made about student participation. And you know, it hasn't just been for the teachers the last 4 years have been hard. And it hasn't just been for the parents that the last 4 years have been hard, trying to understand what's happening in the curriculum in school. It's been hard for the students too. And you know, it occurred to me when I heard what the superintendent said that what we all need and what different constituencies in this process need is what the process needs, and that is each other. And so, you know, listening to comments about, well, wouldn't it be great if we had a student board member? Well, you know, under your board bylaws, I had it here for a second here, yeah, board bylaw 9150. It says you shall have a member from the students on the board. And as a former student government activist, when I was at Laguna Beach High School, and I stood in this same room at the age of 16, 17, talking about curriculum, and that's why I tried to read that thing. We were involved in curriculum in 1970. I think if, having been in school at that time, I think kids in Laguna Beach High School are more at risk now than they were in 1968, and believe me, they were at risk in 1968. So when I look at the Healthy Kids, you know, what the kids need is what you need, and that is community and togetherness and cohesiveness. And so my point is, there should be a student on this board right now casting a preferential vote on every single item that the board votes on. That's what your board bylaws provide for. And so I'm excited, actually. I think that we've gone through a period where some of these things that should have been done years ago haven't been done. We have an opportunity now, because of the work this board's done, because of the new superintendent, we have an opportunity now to do some of these things that should have been done. So when I look at these 3 items on this curriculum committee, I'll close by saying this. I have suggested that the board policy and board bylaw revision committee be made a standing committee and that it have open meetings. I suggest that there be a standing committee on curriculum that involves Brown Act open meeting sessions and gets students and the community involved. And I will end now because I'm out of time, and the chair is always very generous to me and giving me my extra 30 seconds. But I'll just shut up and say that I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that have been frustrating people, I think can and will be addressed as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. With that, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to action item number 14. Authorize the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services to file a notice of completion, NOC, for the track and field replacement for Laguna Beach High School by Byron Davey, Inc., for recording by the Orange County Clerk and Recorder. I'll need a motion to approve.
Approval, second.
All right, this is Dean, Phyllis F. and I don't know exactly what this means, because it doesn't mean it's fully finished, right?
Right, exactly. Byron Davey is the contractor that did all the underground work. So they expanded all the drainage underneath it, leveled everything out, and prepped it for the contract that's working on the field now, which is doing the turf, and the contractor that will be doing next week, which will be the track. So they had all the undergrowth and also the scoreboard, which was up to date as well. So we're ready to file a notice of completion. That gives 30 days with any subcontractors out there that have been paid, kind of to go through the process, and then we release retention.
And no change orders, is that correct?
No change orders. This will actually come in slightly under the contract because we had a little allowance for things that came up and
And there were things that came up, I know, Jim
yeah,
was
but they're
commenting to me on
underneath
that,
they're underneath that limit, so they'll be, the last bill will be less than the full months.
And having gone through some of the things in this district before that were done, not having any change orders is a big deal. Huge. It's a big deal, isn't it?
We are ecstatic about this contractor and obviously the one that did the tennis courts too, and we've got some good people to do work with.
And it's good supervision, that's key also.
Thank you, board discussion. I've been watching it over there, it's a lot of work being done. All right, all in favor? Oh, excuse me, public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm moving on to 15, I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Say a question, this is scary. This is the one that's under discussion right now, where they've said it's not gonna work and how our parents are ever gonna decide what to get.
Yeah, what Jen's referring to is the possible
State boards that
LCAP,
have, right?
State Board of Education adopted LCAP
The accountability.
matrix, accountability matrix.
The blue, green, yeah.
It looks like a really confused stoplight. But yeah, we're not exactly sure what that's gonna look like, because they still haven't identified what actually some of those indicators would even be made up of.
Are you surprised?
No, not at all. But it will be interesting to see, and so again, an opportunity for PTA and ledge action from CSBA to kind of weigh in on those different areas, because it is an ongoing discussion.
If I was all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Our next meeting, regular meeting of the Board of Education is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2016, 6 p.m. And my 50 Blue Marks will be called home.
job. Thank you.